All right, guys, we should be live. Let me know if you guys can hear me. We should be live right now. I'm having a little technical difficulties because I'm using a different browser tonight. I'm not using Firefox. I'm using Chrome, and I don't usually use Chrome, so I had to make a couple of different adjustments. Let me know if you can hear me, and then I'm going to give you a real quick soundbite and ask you if you can hear system audio. Gray Dude says 1, so you can hear me. Let me play something for you. What can I play for you?
All right, guys. So this video.
Okay, can you guys hear that system audio where the guy said, "All right, guys," and then identify that voice? Fear Porn says 5x5, and check it out. I've got this. I was watching some tutorial videos to try to figure out how to highlight. You can't. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Good deal. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. All right. So I can highlight comments now. So if you send a super chat and you think that there's something that you want to add to the conversation, because this is a super important conversation, guys. I don't think it's an important conversation. I know it's an important conversation. So if you have something to add to it, and you want to get my attention through super chat or whatever, I'm not saying you have to send it super chat. I'm just saying that'll get my attention better. Or I can just look in the comments, but that's kind of difficult sometimes. So the reason I wanted to go over this, and the reason that I titled this absolutely the most important Joe Rogan podcast and why, is because in my opinion, and you can tell me if it transcends my opinion, but in my opinion, the most important thing that we can talk about right now is the elimination of all state-funded coercion on your life. The end of all, DTA says, why is it so important? It's the end. When you can end all coercion, and when I say coercion, I mean that unseen persuasion that's hanging over the heads of Americans, and really by extension, everybody in the world. I can only speak for being an American though. It's that umbrella. It's that cloud of doom that hangs over your head every single day, whether you think about it or not, whether you're asleep or awake. It's almost like that Santa Claus thing. He knows when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. So be good for goodness sakes. It's the elimination of that all-powerful government Santa Claus, who's actually a demon, who's ready to pounce on you if you do something wrong, who's ready to pounce on you even if you do things right and they view it as wrong. As a matter of fact, it's dangerous to be right when the government is so wrong. And that's what they're talking about right here. And the guest is, and this Joe Rogan podcast, by the way, is almost 10 years old. It was recorded back in June or July of 2012. And his guest is Adam Kokesh. No matter what you think about Joe Rogan, no matter what you think about Adam Kokesh, I just ask you for the next couple minutes to just separate what you know about these people individually. Joe Rogan he's a shill. He's working for NASA. He's working for the government. Okay, possibly. I don't like Adam Kokesh. I don't like what he did to us. Okay, whatever. Let's just judge this thing on the merits. And if the most important thing that we need to talk about today is the removal of that organization, that evil, corrupt, disgusting organization that is constantly over your head, threatening to harm you, to steal your stuff, to harm your family, to steal their stuff, and steal from everybody that you know, even up to and including putting our sons and daughters on the battlefield, in some sandbox somewhere in the Middle East or wherever, in Ukraine or whatever. If that's one of the most important things, this is something that we all need to talk about. And when we talk about it and we get this discussion on the table, then we can address these issues about, yeah, but what would we do without government? How could we have those smooth surfaces that we call roads? How could we have clean running water and sound bridges to drive over, dude? We can address all that kind of stuff. And we can tackle it from the position of voluntarism. We can attack it from the position of peace and from the moral high ground. This is super important. A lot of people do not want to discuss this. And and I can even see, and probably in some of my audience, there's this eye rolling. Oh my God, we're going to talk about anarchy again. We're going to talk about all the quips that you use. But Adam Kokesh brings some very interesting points to the table as Joe Rogan tries to resist and argue for an organization called government. Remember, government is two Latin words, governo and mentis. That's to control the mind, or mind control. And that's what government's all about. It's about controlling you against your will, without your consent. Can you imagine if you lived your life like government lives their lives, like government agents live their lives, like just busting into somebody's house, threatening their peace, threatening their life, shooting their dog? Can you imagine if you did what government did, pulling people over, telling them, hey, you need my permission before you can do that, buddy? If you acted like that, every one of us, we would all look at you like, this dude is freaking insane. Where does he get off telling everybody what they can or can't do? And if they don't do it, then he's going to extract their wealth. He's going to tax their income. He's going to attack their family. He's going to shoot their dog. He's going to pull them over because their plates are out of date. What if we didn't have that? Can you imagine the industry? Can you imagine the progress? Can you imagine what we could actually do in this life if we didn't have that government entity constantly over our heads, extracting our wealth, which is the time and laboring energies that it takes for you to be able to provide a good life for you and your family? So let me go over this. And I know a lot of people get mad at this. I'm going to say this right up front. I will be cutting in on this video. And two reasons I want to do it is because sometimes it's good to slow things down and discuss the conversation and just kind of digest what has been said. And second of all, Joe Rogan still has, he's got I don't know, there are algorithms that search the YouTube platform for long strings of content that they can copyright strike or do takedown notices on. So I have to make sure that I fall in line with the 107 fair use. And besides that, I think this is going to be good for all of us to watch, or I wouldn't even be doing this live stream right here. Thank you for being in here. There's, what do we got? How many people are in here? 385 people, 97 likes. I really appreciate you guys showing up. Let's go ahead and get started here.
Look, man, I think everybody's recognizing it now. Anybody with a brain is realizing, you know, Bush was the first guy where everybody had to step back and go, wow, like because of the access to information, that was the first time we got real news, daily news online and shit. That was the first time people realized, like, whoa, this administration is bought and paid for. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is the most obviously bought and paid. Like, they're rocking it in a way that nobody had previously done. Everybody had been way slicker about hiding their connections to money and to war profiteering. But the Bush administration just let their freak flag fly. They just fucking went out, started 2 wars that made no sense, profited a fuckload of money. If you could talk to George Bush, what would that conversation be like? If you could just get alone with that guy, would you do it respectfully? Would you slowly try to chip away at it and try to get his perspective? Or do you think you would just lose your fucking mind when you were just in the face of someone who is at least indirectly responsible for the death of probably 1 million people?
And for my own PTSD, in a sense, you know?
Sure.
And
what would that be like to be in front of that guy?
Well,
that's actually a question I would want to ask you guys. If you were able to sit in front of any president, it doesn't matter if it's George W. Bush, Reagan, Clinton, Obama, Trump, Biden, what would you say to him? Would you try to have a discussion with him? What would you do? Be careful with your comments. Remember, the algorithms are surveyed by the CIA and the FBI and the ATF. So I don't know. What would you guys do if you were able to have a person-to-person contact with no Secret Service agents in the room? What would you say to George W. Bush or George H.W. Bush or Clinton or Trump or Obama?
Great question. You know, and I used to, when I was active with Iraq Veterans Against the War, when I got out of the Marines and was disgruntled and started questioning things, I used to fantasize about that, like
a physical violence.
Like I'd punch him in the face.
Whoa,
or
I don't think you should say that on the radio.
Well, this was like George Bush, you know.
But I don't even think you can threaten him, like a past president. I don't think you can fake do that.
No, but
is that funny? They could arrest you for that.
I know.
Yeah,
I've had experiences.
But now you feel differently.
Well, yeah, I think part of my own philosophical development and my own experience going through to the point where I feel like I got to, you know, you never get all the way to the bottom, but like to the effective bottom of the rabbit hole for me, that allows me to function the way that I do now with my current understanding of the world. You know, part of it was having a philosophical approach. Like there's a quote from a Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm sure I'm butchering the name, but it's something like when someone does harm to you, it is only because harm has been done to them and they are reflecting it back and they are expressing.
And that would be the position of empathy. It's like, it takes a lot, guys. Any fool can start a quarrel. Any fool can burn a bridge. It takes a wise man with compassion and knowledge and empathy to go up to another person who's, spitting vitriol at him and just be super calm and try to de-escalate. And that's what we talk about a lot on the Here's the Deal channel, is oftentimes when a cop encounters a situation, they don't know how to deal with it, so they act out in violence. And rather than de-escalate, they're escalating the situation. Why? Because there's no wisdom there. We've talked time and time on this channel about them hiring people who are low IQ. Well, low IQ people can't use their intelligence to try to talk a person down off the bridge, so to speak. Talk a person down off their emotions, and you use rationality and empathy and compassion and all those human elements that seem to be missing in the law enforcement position and that occupation. So this takes a great deal of empathy. It takes a lot of self-control. It takes a lot of perseverance, because a lot of times people are very irrational and it's hard to even talk them out of irrationality. So I think this is a really good point. And EMS Stardust says, Brian, at what point do you think people finally have enough? I believe most people have lost all the willpower in them to retaliate. Love you, Brian. Hey, I appreciate that super chat. I don't think everybody's lost it, because you can see, specifically on Second Amendment and First Amendment channels, there's actually people out there taking a stand, and they're like, hey, this far and no more. Not only that, not only am I taking a stand on my freedoms and I'm not going to give any more up, I want to advance further into the camp of tyranny and take back the freedoms you already stole from us. I don't want to ask the government for permission to go fishing or to forage in the wilderness or to go hunting or to take my property from point A to point B. I'm a man. Men who are free don't ask other men for permission. So I don't think everybody's lost the willpower, but like you pointed out, it looks like most people have. It's almost like, well, just give me my bread and circuses and I shall never revolt. That's kind of like where we are. So that's a good question, EMS Stardust. It does look like we're in desperate times. Let's put it that way, because the 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week propaganda is ceaseless.
And to me, I see that is what government as a whole is, in the sense that it's pathological behavior. It is a relic of human evolution, of the scarring of the only way we were able to raise kids in the state of nature was you beat them so they keep up with the tribe, and the evolution of that into government. And I see that as George Bush simply a representation of that broader social phenomenon of government being the last manifestation of this desire to control and dominate and use violence against others. And
that's what it is. It's a desire to control and dominate and use violence against others, against their will, without their consent. Because what do you call that if somebody forces you to have sex with them and they don't have sex with you? What do you call that? It's called rape. What if you want to take somebody's life and they don't want their life taken from them? It's called murder. What do you call it when you take somebody's property and they don't want their property taken from them? It's called theft. Well, isn't it rape, murder, and theft when somebody from government does the exact same thing? Yes, it is. But for some reason, they have qualified immunity. Internationally, there's diplomatic immunity. There's political immunity. We have to drop all these barriers and all these names and all these fictions and all these euphemisms and bring everybody down to the scale of humanity where we're all the same. The popes aren't higher than the common man, the peasants. There is no pope and peasant. We're all human beings. There's no president, governor, and then the commoners, law enforcement class, and then there's civilians. No, we're all human beings. Uniforms, badges, these special costumes and funny names, fancy names before titles. It's like, call him Holy Father. Really? He's just a man like me. He just puts his pants on like me. He goes poop like me. We're all the same. So this idea that there are people out here who are higher on the totem pole than other people, I'm not saying that there aren't people who are smarter, or dumber, need more attention, need more physical care because maybe they were born paraplegic or something. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying on the scale of humanity, we are all just human, and we all need to stop pretending that somebody else is better than us. Oh, like you see these old newsreel clips of the Beatles stepping out of the plane and going toward the stadium, and you got all these these women passing out and fainting. It's like, why are they doing that? Because propaganda got into their brains to make them think that these people are actually stars. They're not. They're just musicians. Musicians aren't better people than others. Do people have talents that other people don't? Yeah. Football players, do things that other people can't. Weightlifters do things other musicians, singers. There are people that are, phenomenally smart and they can put together algorithms and create websites and all this kind of stuff. But we're all still human, so we have to get away from this idea that there are people that are smarter than us. They're better than us. They have better ideas. Therefore, they should rule us. I don't have a problem with leaders. What I have a problem with is somebody who believes that they can rule you, and if you disobey the rules that they set forth for you, they believe that they can rightly punish you if you didn't do what they said. That's ridiculous. It's nonsense, and we all need to get to the point where we realize how nonsensical it actually is.
He's just, and it's not that the president is a pitchman or a puppet. He's a power broker. He legitimately makes decisions. But the reason the one who usually gets into the position is the one that is because he's reflective of the environment that produces him. And that's the existing power structure. And that's the paradigm of society as a whole. And that's why changing the paradigm and waking people up and the perspective that you share about government is so powerful, because what ultimately determines whether or not you are going to be free is whether the human beings around you agree that you should be free, and they won't tolerate people initiating force against you when you're acting peacefully.
Yeah, exactly. And somebody says musicians should rule us. I mean, that's as hilarious as saying politicians. Of all the people who shouldn't rule us, it should be politicians shouldn't rule us. And yet, what do we have? Every 4 years, every 2 years during the midterms, everybody goes to the polls. There's lines of people voting for political parasites to rule us again. Here, take more of my money. I want this guy. I want Team Red to take my money this year, not Team Blue. Team Blue will blow our money. Well, doesn't history show you that Team Red will blow your money just as fast, if not faster, than Team Blue? Isn't the welfare or the welfare state, doesn't it grow faster under Team Blue, and the warfare state grow faster under Team Red? Why do you want welfare or warfare? It's all predicated on theft.
So the only way to do that is to make them happier. That's the real trick. You gotta get them to lighten the fuck up. Things are not that bad. You really look in perspective, things are not that bad.
Well, one of my biggest philosophical influences is Stefan Molyneux, and he went through a whole process of describing this anarcho-capitalist ideal society, and really to embrace this philosophy, you kind of have to go through all of the resistances that people have, like, without government, who's going to build the roads, And it's the same question as people would ask when we were trying to abolish slavery. And it was, but without the slaves, who's going to pick the cotton?
I don't think there's anything wrong with
I know this sounds elementary, and we've been saying this a lot, but think about how ridiculous it would have been in the mid 1800s, pre-Civil War, for somebody to go, wait a second, how the hell are we going to pick the cotton? I mean, don't you like cottony clothes? Don't you like, all this stuff that we have, all these creature comforts that we have here in 1858? Don't you like this stuff? Who's going to supply all this if we didn't have slaves? Look at the expanse of the human experience. There's never been a successful civilization that didn't have slaves. We can't do it without slavery. That's literal. Government is slavery, by the way. And the argument is the same today as it was back in 1859. Without government, who will build the roads? Without slaves, who will pick the cotton? Just if your hesitation of not having an armed force constantly threatening you and violating your will and going against your consent, if you think that we can't progress as humanity without that violent, forceful, evil element, I would ask you to sit down and just kind of think about what you're asking here. How could we ever have roads unless we bash Aunt Mary in the head and take 15% of her income, the majority of which does not go to build the roads? Because how do we even have wars, for example? You can't have wars with sound money because it's a finite resource, and the free market will not tolerate fomenting war. Can't afford it, won't do it. Like back in Rome, you know what they did to fund wars? They clipped coins and taxed the cattle, the Roman cattle, just like the American tax cattle, just like the Canadian tax cattle and the New Zealand tax cattle and the UK tax cattle are all being fleeced by the politicians so they can fund the war machine with their funny, unsound money.
Having a form of counsel, the idea of calling them government, and like what the Obama administration was able to do, what the Obama administration was able to do in this whole Operation Fast and Furious, where he was able to, just say, I don't want to talk about it. And what is it, invoking executive order or whatever?
Privilege, yeah.
Executive privilege. I mean, how silly is that? You just there's a giant scandal where they sold guns to Mexican drug dealers, and they said, oh, yeah, we're just going to track them.
Well,
and then one of those guns killed one of the
Border Patrol agent, yeah.
So Joe Rogan is now making the argument that it's so ridiculous to have this massive organization that can't be questioned to where they actually make doing the Fast and Furious thing. It's legal. It's legalized theft. It's legalized extortion. It's legalized murder. It's legalized illegality. So he's actually arguing in favor of the anarchist position, but watch him change and argue for the statist position, which he is now arguing against. It's crazy, crazy stuff.
The idea that he would be able to use executive privilege and get out of that, and to do it so blatantly, like that's a creepy thing. Like, you can't have things like that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that kind of shit. Like, but that's what I'm saying. Like, in a form of counsel, that would never exist. In a form of dictatorship, that's where something like that exists.
Well,
it's a get out of jail free pass.
It's what do you think that you need government to accomplish, and how can you do it?
I think
instead of having an arbitrary.
We like leaders, and the lead, but I think the leaders should be.
It's anti-political. It's anti-leaders. It's anti-authoritarian. It's saying we are not going to allow ourselves to be cowed. We are going to understand that as human beings, in what we call the free market, we are able to cooperatively accomplish all the things that we have been convinced we need government for.
Right, I understand that, but someone's going to have to execute decisions. Someone's going to have to put things in motion. You're going to have to group people that are going to vote on things.
Give me examples. What is it?
Anything that needs to get done, whether you're not,
See, he's conflating, Joe Rogan is conflating leadership with rulership. He thinks that if you don't have rulership, then you're never going to have organization. You're going to have chaos. Society is going to fall apart if you don't have violence and brutality and coercion of the state. He literally thinks that. That's why something like this is why this is the most important in my mind, and put a 2 in the room if you completely disagree with me, but in my mind, this is one of the most, if not the most important Joe Rogan experiences, because this is what needs to be talked about today. Back then, Joe Rogan probably had, 250,000 to 500,000 people listening to him a month. Now it's like 15 or 20 million. This guy's got a massive platform, and this is the kind of stuff that needs to be talked about on the platform so we can plant the seed and set brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. Because I'm telling you, we are not going to get away from this unless we do one thing, and that's get rid of government. And the first way you do that is the first step is decentralizing power and authority. Take it out of the hands of Washington's district of criminals. You want to call this an experiment in the American process or whatever? We already know that the experiment of Washington, D.C. has failed miserably. It hasn't failed for them. It hasn't failed for the corporate elitists. It hasn't failed for the Federal Reserve. It hasn't failed for the politicians, but it has failed for the people when you've got 99% of the value of the American dollar that has been diminished over the last 114, 115 years. This is the kind of stuff that we need to talk about, because a lot of people don't even know that there's anything other than statism.
What is it that you might not have a consensus of how many cops need to be hired, as opposed to how many teachers need to be hired,
community
or
can
how much they should get.
The people paying for those services.
Right. How do they do that? They do that with a form of government. They get together. They have council.
No, they do it through corporations. They do it through companies where they're able to buy protection services, where they're able to get the legitimate services that police provide.
I think Adam misspoke there, because I know that Adam knows that corporation, you can only be, a man starts a business, and then he gets all these employees, and then he goes to the government to become incorporated. You cannot be incorporated without the government's blessing. Corporations equal, especially today. Maybe they didn't used to start out this way, but corporations equal governments. Governments equal corporations. Corporations work with governments. Corporations, in essence, are governments because they're getting kickbacks that none of the rest of us do. They get special considerations that individuals don't. So I think if I know him, because I've watched a lot of his stuff, I don't think he meant corporations. There are organizations that can organize and get things done. They can get the homeless fed. They can get them sheltered. They can help people who are in dire straits better, if more efficiently and cheaper than the government could ever possibly do. Because once you go through all the bureaucratic red tape, and I'm talking about the federal, state, and local level of the government, you spend all this money because everybody's got a vested interest in extracting that money from the people. Whereas when you have the free market, you have people who will donate. You know, even in this government system, doesn't your heart just go out to somebody who's got a cardboard sign and they look like they're on their last leg and it looks like they haven't had a meal for days and days? Doesn't your heart just, something happen in your heart where you turn back around and you go to the grocery store? Maybe you're not going to give them money because you feel like, hey, maybe they're going to destroy their lives with drugs or whatever, but go in and get them like a rotisserie chicken or buy them a bag of, almonds, or give them a case of water or something like that. That happens even under statism. That's the free market piercing through and actually doing what the free market does. Does that mean that we're going to completely eliminate criminality? Does that mean that rape is going to disappear and murder or whatever? No, but when you decentralize Washington's District of Criminals and get rid of all that nonsense and get rid of all their regulations that keep the common man from like a personal protection device, you know what that is, you can start saving a lot of lives just with the elimination of the decentralization of power, or the centralization of power. Decentralizing is the first step. If you want to put it like this, dissolve Washington's District of Criminals and put all the power in the hands of the state. Now you work on the state. Then you work on the local level, and then you form local organizations. You got farmers co-ops where you can get really healthy organic food. Put everything on the centralized level. Have all the states cooperate with each other. It's amazing if you think about it, how such complexity, like a supermarket, for example, how many hundreds of thousands of people bring the chewing gum and the lettuce and the diapers and the motor oil, and just pick a product. You get in this big, this big super center's got all this stuff. How did it happen? It happened without government. It happened without a centralized power. Did it happen without organization? No, it's got major organization, but it happened without a ruler. Maybe there's a leader, maybe there's a coordinator or whatever, but they're not making you do something. Nobody made that oil well rigger, that driller, extract that oil out and distill all that stuff into gasoline and separate it into oil and separate it into diesel and separate it into kerosene. Nobody made them do that. Of course, a lot of those corporations are government funded and owned, and they got their own little tip of the hat from the government and all that kind of stuff. But I'm talking about what incentivizes all those people from all those places and all those different backgrounds to get together and put their product in that store. Profit. They have a profit motive. Now, there are a lot of people out there like Russell Brand who says one of the dirtiest words in the English language is profit. Really? It's not. It's not. That's just capitalism. That's me going, hey, you know what? You produce something that I can't produce. You produced a steering wheel. I need a steering wheel for my car. You produced a transmission. You grow carrots. You can't do everything, and then you have this free trade. It's like, hey, I've got money. Would you be willing to take $5 for that bushel of beans? Sure, I'll take $5 for that bushel of beans. So that guy wants your $5 more than he wants that bushel of beans, and you want that bushel of beans more than you want that $5. So you pay that guy. That's the free market. That, in essence, is capitalism.
Without forcing it on people just because they happen to be their neighbors.
Even teachers. Even deciding what salaries are. You're going to have some sort of a way that people can
Susan Donahue, thank you for that super chat. I really appreciate that. Very kind of you.
Interact with each other, and then someone's going to have to execute it.
That's called the free market.
I'm going to back this up a little bit because I feel like I don't want to lose the thought here.
It's anti-authoritarian. It's saying we are not going to allow ourselves to be cowed. We are going to understand that as human beings, in what we call the free market, we are able to cooperatively accomplish all the things that we have been convinced we need government.
Mutual, consensual, voluntary, non-coercive, non-violent, non-brutal, non-threatening cooperation. That's what we're talking about.
For.
Right, I understand that, but someone's going to have to execute decisions. Someone's going to have to put things in motion. You're going to have to group people. They're going to vote on things.
Give me examples. What is it?
Well, anything that needs to get done, whether you're not, you have.
What is it that
you might not have a consensus of how many cops need to be hired, as opposed to how many teachers need to be hired,
the community
or
can
how much
decide
they
that,
should
or
get.
the people paying for those services.
Right.
can
How do they do
determine
that? They do that with a form of government. They get together. They have council.
No, they do it through corporations. They do it through companies where they're able to buy protection services, where they're able to get the legitimate services that police provide without forcing it on people just because they happen to be their neighbors.
even teachers. Even deciding what salaries are. You're going to have some sort of a way that people can interact with each other, and then someone's going to have to execute it.
That's called the free market.
Yeah, but that person who executes it should be someone of respected counsel, someone who's we could take advantage of the fact that there's people that are older and more brilliant.
Why was Steve Jobs the CEO of Apple?
This is a really good point that Adam's about to make here. Why was Steve Jobs the CEO of Apple? Was it because of the color of his skin? Was it because of the way he talked? Was it because of any of these external factors? Or was it because he proved himself to be the smartest person for the job? He put in the long hours. He put in the time. He put in the research. He was able to, gather around him a team. And that's what the free market does. But what does government do? The government goes, well, we need to fill this Supreme Court spot. How about that person over there? We need a particular color to fill that seat. It's not about them being the most qualified, although who's qualified to be a robed tyrant of the Supreme Court so that they can rule against the Constitution. Remember, the Marbury versus Madison, the bottom line of Marbury versus Madison was that it gave the Supreme Court power. People are saying if there's a law that's against the Constitution, it is null and void. That's really not what Marbury versus Madison was. Marbury versus Madison transferred power to the Supreme Court, so that giving them power to interpret the Constitution for the rest of us. In other words, the Constitution says this right here, but it stops at the black robe curtain of the Supreme Court, and they'll tell you what it means. It reminds me of the Catholic Church back in the 13 to 1500s. It's like, oh no, you guys are peasants. You don't know what the Bible says. We'll tell you what the Bible says. As a matter of fact, we won't allow you to own a copy of the Bible. After the Gutenberg press, whatever that 15, whatever it was. We don't allow the peasants, the common people, to own a Bible because they might start interpreting it for themselves. And that's what the Martin Luther, 95 Thesis on the Wittenberg Castle door was all about. But that's the same thing with the Supreme Court. Marbury versus Madison empowered the Supreme Court to be the sole arbiters and interpreters of the Constitution, while a lot of people use Marbury versus Madison, that one little sliver of a quote that says any law that violates or goes against the Constitution is null and void. Well, that's not really what Marbury versus Madison was all about. Marshall made sure that his Supreme Court got some serious power on that. Rob Sanchez says, what's your thoughts on Watch the Water doc? I've covered that, but I can't cover it on YouTube. I covered that when it first came out. You can find those videos on BitChute and Odyssey. Not impressed with it. It looks like it basically says, I got to be real careful what I say on this live stream because the algos are watching. I'll tell you what, just find those videos on my Odyssey and BitChute channel. I lay it out pretty succinctly. But thanks for that question, and I appreciate the super chat, Rob Sanchez.
What made Steve Jobs the CEO of Apple?
Very creative guy. Started off
market forces. He was the most valuable one to be in the command of those market resources.
So you want to turn the government and how things run into just a big free market as far as police, as far as...
Let me just say this about Watch the Water. They say a certain thing exists, which is the same thing that St. Anthony Fraudstein, God bless his soul. Can you get a little bit of deception with that? A little bit of deception, of course. Of course, we'll pile on a lot of deception with that. So it's almost like they're amening with the Cat Dog Cat Corporation and that other corporation that Anthony Fraudstein's with, are saying at the get-go, which causes here's the deal. If you haven't, man, I can't say anymore. It basically is it's an amen to what fake stream CIA infiltrated Operation Mockingbird MK Ultra Media says. I'll leave it at that.
As teachers, everything's just a giant free
I
market.
want to take the violence out of it. I want to take the coercion out of it. I want it to be accomplished peacefully by people cooperating instead.
Who can argue with that? I want to take the violence out of what is known as government. See, here's the thing. Government has co-opted coordination and organization and leadership and roads and public education and national defense and domestic defense. They've co-opted all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with having a national defense. You know, somebody's eventually somewhere going to go psychopath on us and try to attack us, probably for our freedoms. There's nothing wrong with having a local security force that you can call on because, you know, Bob, who's working 16 hours a day at the steel mill, doesn't have time to patrol his neighborhood. There's nothing wrong with all that stuff. What is wrong with it is there's massive levels of corruption, coercion, force, threats, you know, taxation, which is the hidden tax. You can remove all that stuff. We see it even under this status program that you can build privately funded roads that are constructed better and cheaper than the government. If you want something better, if you want something cheaper, don't go with government. If you want something more expensive and less efficient, if you want a product that sucks, go with government. If you want force and control and coercion and violence and brutality, go with government. If you want an unsound money system where they can actually invisibly tap you for all your time and laboring energies, go with government. The free market won't do that because there's no incentive there for them to do that. Once the public finds out what private companies have done, they boycott, they step away. There ain't no more funding coming their way for them. You can't do that with government because not only do they coerce and force and threaten and use violence and brutality, but they put a monopoly on that. So if you wanted to have a rival police force in your neck of the woods, guess what? You're going down. They will come and attack you for trying to do the same thing that they're doing, only you do it better. We see this time and time again. Private citizens can actually do better in a lot of cases than cops. Do you know what's better than calling 911? Calling 1911, calling 357, calling Glock 22, calling Kimber, call anybody but 911. Because when seconds count, police are minutes away. Far more crimes have been stopped by civilians than by law enforcers. Far more. And it's done cheaply, almost free.
Oh, well, you live here, you're going to pay these taxes. Oh, well, you live here, you're going to be under these rules.
But someone's going to have to organize how the hospital gets kept up. Is that going to be a public thing, or is that going to be? I mean, you opposed to everything public?
Look at how much more
public education. Are you opposed to public?
I'm opposed to education that's funded by violence.
Amen. Amen.
How's it funded by violence? What do you mean by that?
You think a child?
Either he's playing dumb, and I don't think he is in this case. Either Joe Rogan's playing. Wait a minute. How's public education funded by violence? Guys, taxation is violence. Taxation is not only theft, it's extortion. It's theft at the barrel of a gun. If you don't pay up, even if you don't have kids in your area that are going to school, they still make you pay. Is that fair? No, it's unfair because that's what government is. That's what government does. That's what they're all about.
Child going to school doesn't understand that if they don't go to school every day, their parents get in trouble, and that the way the school is paid for is by taxes that the parents pay against their will, whether or not they have children in a school system. Children get that; they understand that. We grow up, but this is the status paradigm.
Okay, but that's a one-way of looking at it. It's also true that parents pay taxes in a very specific neighborhood because they know there's a good school system in there, and then they run rallies for the school system, and they gather up money, and people donate.
Right, and so
that's also true. I see that,
and so that
involving
element,
community schools as well.
Yeah, Strata made a good comment here. He said, "Don't show up to school, and you can get arrested if your kid doesn't show up to school. The parents can get arrested." Think about how ridiculous and insane and criminal that is. If they fail to show up to school for enough days in a row and you fail to follow the guidelines and the criteria of the public school system, a truant officer will knock on your door and they can take you to jail for neglecting your children, for not giving them the education that they need. That's why it's never a good idea. If you have kids in public school, all those strings are attached to them. It'd be better just never to have them go to public school and just do the educationally superior thing and home educate them.
It's not always negative.
Okay, that aspect of it, however, is superior, is it not, to the federal Department of Education coming into that community and saying, now you're going to follow these testing standards in order to get these funds, and if you don't do what we say with this. So all I'm saying is...
It's nice that a careful community...
yes, you see that
helps.
Difference. So that community should be determined not by people...
Right, but how is it
forcing
violence? I mean, how is this... is the money paying the teachers? How is that coming from violence? I don't understand.
How
what
do you
you're saying.
pay taxes? What happens if you don't pay taxes?
Well, you're not contributing to society. I mean, I don't think we should be paying as much taxes as we are.
You're not contributing to war.
I don't think
you're not contributing to corruption.
That is true. But
So
do you think that all taxes are bad? Do you think that we should have no taxes?
All taxes are immoral.
All taxes are immoral. So how do we expect to pay for the city streets? How do we
that shouldn't even be when somebody goes, all taxes are immoral, the next word shouldn't be but. It's like, it's immoral, period. It's like, all rape is immoral, but isn't there a way we can get sex from that lady against her will and without her consent anyway? I mean, can't we just legalize that or something? It's like, no, all murder is immoral. Yeah, but I mean, who's going to say that? All theft is immoral. All rape is immoral. All murder is immoral. Where's the but? Why would you add that conjunction and interject it into a sentence? How are you going to justify doing something immoral just because you think it's going to benefit somebody else? Well, do you realize that if you take that guy out right there, how much you could benefit society? It's immoral. Yeah, but I got like 10 justifications where we can still do it and kind of slide in under the radar, you know? It's just once your eyes are open to this issue, it becomes truly insane when somebody resists the moral high ground. It's like, no, this is the pinnacle of morality. Why would you want to dip your nose down into the sewer pit of immorality and corruption and evil?
Expect to pay to maintain some sort of
And matter of fact, you cannot get into the mountains of debt that we have without statism. Under an anarcho-capitalist system, there's no possible way you can get into debt because you can only spend the money that you have and you cannot create credit out of thin air. Why? Because it's an unsound, dishonest money system. And if you're an anarcho-capitalist, you don't want to do things that are unsound and dishonest. And you can have a thriving economy where people are rewarded for their efforts. And then prosperity goes through the roof. If you want to squash prosperity, bring government on board. If you want to reduce the purchasing power of every dollar in your pocket, invite government into your living room. But if you want to really take off, if you want to really do things, if you really want to go places, what does it say in the Bible? A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. Loving favor rather than silver and gold. It's better to have a good name than to be a rich guy. Yeah, but no, there's no buts about it. There's no buts about it. It is better to have a good name, a good reputation, and people to look at you and honestly say, I know that guy's a good guy. I know that guy wouldn't rape somebody. I know that guy wouldn't murder somebody. I know that guy wouldn't break into his neighbor's house and steal his stuff without asking his neighbor, hey, can I borrow your lawnmower out of your garage? Why? Because that guy's not government minded. Aren't you glad your neighbor isn't government minded? Of course, anybody who goes to the voting booth is government minded, but I'm just saying on the grand scale, aren't you glad that for the most part, people aren't like government? Because government says it's okay for them to steal your stuff. Government says it's okay to murder in certain circumstances. And as a matter of fact, we'll legalize murder. Statism is that brilliant idea that we give a small group of people the right to kidnap, imprison, harass, and steal from and kill people so that we can be protected from people who kidnap, harass, steal from, and kill people. That's how insane this is. And so government will punish you for stealing stuff. Government will punish you for raping somebody. Government will punish you for murdering, but they'll legalize murder. They'll legalize mass murder. It's called war.
a presence with police officers and fund them with cars? Is it all just donations?
No, well, this is the difference between what we have with government and what we already have in the free market.
Do people pay for protection then? Does it become
exactly.
the cops
and you
become
can
protection?
Do it at the community
You think
level.
that sounds like a good idea?
You can do it at the
private
community
cops
level.
that decide to not save you because you didn't pay for protection.
The difference is with them, all you get is protection, whereas with the police today, do we get protection?
Sometimes
No.
you do.
That's
No,
not true.
that's not true.
When
I know
seconds
good
count.
cops. There's good cops out there, man.
Okay, well, what
there's
did
not all bad. All cops are not bad. Just because some cops do a bunch of stupid shit, and those guys in the video with you were clearly bad
Okay,
cops.
so wouldn't you? This is the mechanism by which you separate the good cops from the bad cops.
Their
The
actions.
No. This is the mechanism by which you actually do it. Is you take the arbitrary power of government away from them. You make them serve the market. You make them serve the people peacefully. You make them convince you that their services are necessary. Not put a gun to your head and say, if you don't pay our taxes, you're going to get locked in a cage.
Well, I think that locking someone in jail for taxes is very unfortunate, and it doesn't make sense when you think about how many fucking gigantic corporations have gone bankrupt and how much more that affected people than, one person who's not paying their little tiny slice of the military-industrial complex's pie. But you should have to pay something. It should make sense you're getting something out of it, and you should want
You're not. By the way, you're not paying taxes. Nobody pays taxes. Taxes are stolen from you. They're taken from you. It's like if you were standing on a street corner and some guy stole your wallet. You didn't pay the thief. He took it from you without asking. Nobody's paying taxes. There's a difference between paying of your own free will in a voluntary system and it being stolen from you. It's kind of like what if I developed a desire to eat Wheaties? So every week I'd buy a box of Wheaties, and then I just stopped buying Wheaties. And then the manufacturer of Wheaties calls me up and goes, "Hey, we noticed that you haven't bought a box of Wheaties in about 3 weeks. What's going on?" I can't afford. I don't really want the Wheaties anymore. I got sick of it, and I'm eating shredded wheat now. Okay, well, you can't do that. You can't just stop buying Wheaties. We're going to send some guys to your house, and they're going to give you a citation, and we're going to fine you because you didn't buy our Wheaties. You'd be like, "You're going to fine me because I didn't buy Wheaties? I don't want to buy Wheaties." "No, sorry, sir. You have to buy the Wheaties." "What do you mean I have to buy Wheaties?" "Yeah, you're going to get a citation." "Well, I resist the citation." "Well, then we're going to send men not with citations. We're going to send men with guns, and we're going to throw you into a cage because you refuse to comply with our orders to buy Wheaties." You would think that is criminal. You would want to call the police on them. Oh, that is the police that's calling saying, "Hey, you violated our rule to buy Wheaties." That's how ridiculous taxation. "Hey, why didn't you give your 39% this year? We understand, we know how much money you've made, and we know that you failed to pay it. How come you didn't fund the war this year, Brian? We're going to send men to your house and make sure that you either cough up that money or you're going to pay dearly by going into the federal penitentiary." It's ridiculous.
Contribute. If I live in a community and if everybody said, "Well, hey man, our streets are all fucked up," but Mike gathered up all the names that everybody lives here and realized if we all just chip in $100, we could fix this whole thing. I think it's worth it for me for $100. Are you in? And everybody goes, "Yeah." Well, that would be beautiful.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That'd be
That's
beautiful.
not government. That's great. That's
That'd
exactly
be beautiful.
But see, technology allows us all the
If
ways.
we didn't
to
have
do
jobs, if we didn't have responsibility, children, careers, if we didn't have things we had to think about all day, instead you're running around there trying to fucking figure out how to pay the firemen and how to make sure that the cop tires are good, and at a certain point in time, how much micromanagement can you do in your fucking community?
Well, how is it for cable now? Internet, TV.
So what's the solution? Hey, make sure the fire truck tires have good treads on them. Let's make sure that we fund our police departments. Like, how much theft do you think we need to enact in order to get those tires on that fire truck and to get that police force out there so that they can serve and protect the crap out of you? How much theft do you think we need to do? And how many people do you think that we need to hurt who resist us making them pay for the police force and the fire engine tires? That's what Joe Rogan is actually saying here. That's what he's saying. He's literally saying, but it's okay to force people to do something against their will and without their consent. And if they fail to do it, it's okay to hurt them monetarily and physically so that we can get tires on that dang fire truck. That's what he's saying. That's what everybody who's a statist is saying. We want law and order, law and order. Nobody's got a problem with our order. There's this thing, order out of chaos. It's kind of like this new world order thing. There's nothing wrong with producing order out of chaos. The question is, whose order is it? And who created the chaos that they want to protect us from? Because that's part of the whole Hegelian dialectic. I have no problem eliminating chaos and bringing in order. But whose order is it going to be? And why was the chaos there in the first place? You got to ask yourself that question, because it all is predicated on the reality of the Hegelian dialectic. Problem, reaction, solution. They create the chaos, wait for the fear-based reaction because the chaos really took root, and then come up with the pre-planned solution, which is their order, their new world order. I got no problem with eliminating chaos and bringing in order as long as it's done under voluntary means. And it can be, we see that, it can be done. Major order, efficient order, cheap order, effective order. Not this crap from the government. Camera Chris says, I like the sound of it, but where's your proof of an anarcho-capitalist system working? Go to your grocery store. That's anarcho-capitalism as one major example. Nobody forced anybody to bring that, all those items. We're not talking about tens of thousands, guys. Go to your grocery store and see if you can count. See if you can itemize the paper clips, the poster board, the toothpaste. It's wide and the barbecues, the propane tanks. You can't, the tires, you cannot list everything. The watches, the video cameras, all the electronics, and do you think all that's done by one company? That's done by a bunch of companies, and it's all brought in one place. Who made them make that flat screen TV? Nobody did. They were incentivized to do it because they got a profit motive. They're like, hey, we've got our stuff streamlined, man. And if the government would stop messing with us, we'd have it way more streamlined. But we've got this super streamlined to where we know it's going to cost us $75 to make this TV. And we know for a fact that we can put it out in the market for $179 and make all this profit in between and produce 5,000 units a day. And that means that I can put 2,500 people to work, and I can give them a really good, like a pension plan and all that kind of stuff. That's just one company. How about the Wrigley spearmint gum? It's like, hey, people have developed a desire to chew our gum. So Camera Chris is saying, where's your proof of an anarcho-capitalist system working? That is highly organized, incredibly efficient, super effective. And the more competition you get in the market, the cheaper those prices become. The prices go lower, the quality goes up because that's what the public expects. That's an example of an anarcho-capitalist system in motion under the umbrella of statism. Can you imagine how much better it would be if the government would get its frickin' boot off of the neck of these companies that are making all that stuff? Things would be way cheaper. But when you include government in this, the prices, what does the prices do when the government gets involved? They go up. What happens to the quality while the prices are going up? It goes down. The exact opposite happens in the free market. In the free market, when you have competition, see, that's the thing. Another thing government does is it forcefully eliminates competition. And when you eliminate competition, then you have only one or two companies making that stuff. They can put the prices up as much as they want to, and who gives a damn about the quality? Nobody's going to watch the hen house. Well, we'll have the foxes watching the hen house, but no hens are going to be watching the hen house. And if they do, so that we can make ourselves look good, we'll make sure that the hen that's in control of the hen house is beholden to the foxes, so we make it look super deceptive. But when you have a free market where you have all this competition, the more competition you have, the better quality, because they're incentivized to sell their product or to provide that service. What happens when you get a bad haircut? You never go back there again. Where will you go? What if the competition is eliminated and that's the only person you can go to get your haircut? Well, I guess you're stuck with bad haircuts, or you're going to do it at home, right? But if you have competition in the market, now you have options. Now you're like, oh, I can shop around for the quality and the kind of style that I want. Sport, walking around on my head. That's what is good about the free market. Companies that fail are the companies that produce products that nobody wants, or low quality products, or maybe the price is too high. Let the free market sort that out. But what the government wants to do is come in, kick the free market out, and artificially operate as the free market. And then what happens? Things are pushed into what they call the black market. Well, what does the black market do? The black market provides goods and services that you can't get in the unblack market. See, it's so funny. The government calls the black market so that they can stigmatize it and vilify it. You don't want anything with that. Another thing with the black market is you're not going to pay taxes. No taxes in the black market. You can get pretty much anything you want to. That's why they took, God, I keep forgetting that kid's name from the Silk Road on Ross Ulbricht. That's why they put that kid in jail. Because not only was he providing goods and services, and did people abuse that system? It looks like they did. It looks like they were, they had guns for hire and stuff like that. Like, hey, I'm having problems with my ex. Can you take care of it, Woody? Sure. What time do I need to be there? It looks like stuff like that might have been happening. But guys, stuff like that already happens under a status system. They wanted to get rid of Ross Ulbricht because, number one, he was providing goods and services online that people couldn't get anywhere else. And number two, he was using a sound money system. That's when Bitcoin first came out and people weren't using cash. They were using cryptocurrency. Oh, government didn't like that. Government does not like it when you pull away from them and it's like, hey, we'll create our own ecosystem here with our own economy. We'll just be separated from you. And you know what the government does? Oh, no, you're not. We ain't going to let you do that because we're all about force, coercion, brutality, and violence. That's why Washington said, government is not eloquence. It is not reason. It's not innovation. It's not progress. It's force. When you come back here into our market, we're going to call you the black market. The FBI gets involved. They steal his laptop. They steal all of his Bitcoin. He had like 144,000 Bitcoin or something. The street value a couple years ago when Bitcoin hit 60,000 was like multi-billions of dollars that Russ Ulbricht had. And he was a young kid. He was in his early 20s. He's in prison. He'll be there probably for life unless something happens. That's another problem I got with Donald Trump. Oh, you're all about freedom? You should have pardoned Ross Ulbricht. You should have pardoned Julian Assange. You should have pardoned Bradley Manning. You should have given, Edward Snowden the red carpet treatment, but he didn't do that. No, he was pardoning all of his other buddies. That's the thing with government. They don't want freedom. They don't want the free market. They want their claws. They want their hooks deep inside of you to drag you back. Even when all you want to do is just be left alone, you want to go out in the woods. You want to be with your wife. You want to be with your kids. You want to play with your dog. Oh no, we're going to follow you to Ruby Ridge, Randy. We're coming to Ruby Ridge. We're going to put snipers up in the mountains. And when your wife comes out holding her baby child, right there in the head. Oh, Sammy, your little son can't live. He can't continue to live. We're going to take him out. Oh, you love your dog? We'll take him too. All Randy Weaver wanted to do, and all he supposedly did wrong was sold 2 sawed-off shotguns to FBI agents. Tell me how that's a crime. Just because the government tells you can't saw off the barrel of those shotguns, that's illegal, and we're going to treat you like a criminal, ruining this guy's life, taking away his family's lives. And all you want to do is go in that cabin in Utah and just be away from everything. Oh no, the government will come after you for that, buddy. So that's my answer, Chris. I don't know what you think about that, but that's an example of anarcho-capitalism at work. He says it sounds utopian as what you hear from pro-socialists. No, socialism is just like what we have today. They call it capitalism, but it's really corporatism. It's crony capitalism. It's violence. It's force. It's the transfer of wealth and power. It's a charade. Chris says, your example of how a business is successful, not a society. I'm asking for an example of a society. We have examples of socialism failures. But well, if that's an example of if business can be successful I'm talking about a major scale, guys, major scale. How a business is successful encompasses society, because who's partaking in that business, those businesses? Who's benefiting from those businesses, those products, those services? It's society. So how you do business is how you do society. And when people go, well, give me one example. Let's say we're on the internet, or we meet each other in a saloon in 1840. And somebody goes, I know what you're saying, we can do without slavery, but show me one example in the history of mankind where we could get anything done without slavery. Show me one example. That is utterly irrelevant, and you are not beholden to anybody to give every single example of how roads are going to work, schools, bridges, how we're going to get clean. You do not have to do that. All you have to do is say, was slavery immoral? Yes, it was. Guess what? Then we need to abandon it, and we need to do without it. Same thing with this. Whether you have an example of a society working without government or not is completely irrelevant. Is government immoral? Is it evil? Is it murder? Is it slavery? Yes, then we can do without it. And guess what? Our society will be way more prosperous. So that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it. We'll go over this in a second. Let me go over one more super chat, and then we'll go on. Thanks for the super chats, guys. I really appreciate the support. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate it. Brian, I'm trying to find your video that shows Zelensky shaking hands with Klaus Schwab. I'm making a 10-foot banner. Can you tell me where the video is? Did I have a video of him shaking? I have a picture. I put a picture up on my Twitter feed. I don't remember a video of Klaus Schwab shaking hands with Zelensky. Attila Parr, thanks for that $4.99 super chat. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know who put that in there. I don't know, Brady Boynton. I don't remember. I'll tell you what, none of us is greater than all of us. If anybody in the room has a video of Klaus Schwab shaking hands with the actor / comedian from the U country, can you drop that in the chat? One of my moderators. Let's get back to Adam Kokesh. Is what I said make sense? Brian loses it often. The rants take hold of him. Who said that? Somebody said that. There's Edgar says Zelensky is a graduate of the WEF Young Leaders class of 2000, I think. Who was another young leader of the WEF? Oh, yeah, the guy with the patch. Dan Red Flag Law Crenshaw. And that's what I call him. Dan Red Flag Law Crenshaw. Just like when I talk about Brandon Tatum, I talk about Brandon soften him up Tatum because he has no problem with an adult getting on top of and straddling a young little kid with toothpick arms and pounding him in the chest. We need to call these people out for who they are. How about Tulsi Gabbard? Tulsi, I want to take your guns. I want to take your firearms and ban high-capacity magazines, Gabbard. Yeah, she sounds good. Sounds like she's a good person. Guys, good people don't want to take your personal protection devices. Cultic fanatic, another view says. That's what it is. It's the cult of personality. I love hanging out with you guys. You guys encourage me. Okay, let's get back to Kokesh and Rogan here.
In your house, how
You're not late, hippie mermaid.
is it that you get that without government?
But you propose that for things that we think of as civil services, right? You propose that for like cops.
Well, look at how.
And I just
look at
think
how much
that I think
has
that
developed.
that becomes tricky, man.
well, the
Private
question
cops,
is-
that's mercenaries. Think about what the fuck is going on in Iraq
No,
right now.
mercenaries are only made. The problem with mercenaries is that they do things that the government funds them to do that the market would never support them
Well, guess
doing.
what, man?
In
You
the market,
privatize
people
cops.
only want cops to do legitimate things. The only way that you have mercenaries doing things that are immoral is because it's funded by government in the first place.
Okay, I can see that argued easily. If they don't have a specific set of rules and are only open to the market, they're going to push as far as they possibly fucking can to get things done. And if they're dealing with businesses that have a lot of money, they're going to do things that aren't legal. But that's what would happen if you privatize the cops.
That's what we have now. That is exactly what we have now. He's saying that's what you would have if you privatize cops. First of all, if you privatize cops, like let's call it security services, okay? Because I don't like calling it police because it comes from it's a 1500 police. Policia is like a 1500 French word that means policy, like they're policy enforcers. We make the policies and you obey. If you don't comply with our policies, then we punish you and we reserve the moral right to punish you while you have to be obligated. Your job is your obligation to us in obeying our policies. So what he's saying, well, what if this happens? Well, it's already happening in spades with government and couldn't possibly happen to the level it is with government if you took everything private. Why? Because number one, now you create the opportunity for competition. The thing government does is they eliminate competition. They break your legs and hand you a taxpayer funded crutch and say, see, if it wasn't for the government, you wouldn't be able to walk. So they take credit for something that looks like it was good, but your legs wouldn't have been broken in the first place if it wasn't for government.
And that's a fact. That's just how human beings are. If you give them little loopholes and you allow them to figure out how to get through those loopholes, they're like rats on a sinking ship, and they're going to pop out.
He's
and they're
describing government.
No, because the only you're basing that on an understanding of the corporate structure of the current government paradigm, where government empowers corporations to have an unnatural advantage in the market and protects them from competition.
But cops, man.
Hold on, no. In your scenario, you say rich people, like existing corporations and concentrations of wealth, would abuse this ability to hire police forces and private whatever to be able to do evil things. Well, guess what? They already can. The thing is, what we have is a government that keeps the rest of us from doing the same thing, from being able to say that our demands for community safety services, our demands should be met by the market, not by a monopoly that's forced on us. This is why this is the premise of the drug war, man. You do this, the drug war goes away.
Yep.
You do this, all unjust laws go away, because the demands on the enforcers are the demands of the market. They're what people actually want. The bad cops go away because you get to fire them. There's no police unions that say you can't fire people and there's going to be a law against this, that if a cop shoots somebody, he's going to get paid leave. You know, that kind of bullshit. All of that.
Yeah, there's no police unions and there's no qualified immunity. Well, I shot him because I feared for my life. Okay, Amber Geiger, we're only going to put you in jail for 10 years. And if you're good, you know, good behavior, because you know the prison guards will let you get out in a year and a half on parole. Well, you don't get that kind of favoritism, do you? So you eliminate or you increase the competition. You eliminate the police unions, you eliminate qualified immunity, and then what do you have? You actually have accountability. That's why you have accountability and transparency. That's why you have a lot of these First Amendment auditors, the last part of their name is transparency or accountability, because we want to bring these humans in uniforms with badges, guns, utility belts, and the authority of the state into the light of accountability, into the light of transparency. That's the whole purpose of it.
Goes away. When you have roads, like I was telling you, in the way that they're holding us back from technological development, but specifically like in New Mexico, where the Speaker of the House gets to just say, well, put that intersection by my land, so the value of it goes up. All of that goes away. And to say that, well, we need violence
so corruption goes away.
Yes.
How does corruption go away?
Because in order to make money in the free market, so
the free market makes corruption go away.
Well, hold on a second.
I think the free market will not make corruption go away. The free market will not make criminality and crimes and rapes and murder go away. But if you eliminate government, that will dramatically be reduced to be replaced by nothing. There could be no greater corruption than the corruption of government, who has literal diplomatic, foreign immunity, qualified immunity, political immunity. You got to take away the immunity of these mere humans who think they're gods, who walk around like they're gods, who scribble on pieces of paper like they're gods, like you need to obey them, and if you don't, we're going to punish you, man. Or we're going to arrest you. We're going to put you in torture cuffs, throw you in the back of the car. We have the right to kidnap you. You don't. We have the right to throw you into our basement, but you don't. Try forcing somebody out of their car because you saw Bobby Ellis. Bobby Ellis was over on 3rd Street the other night at 2:00 in the morning. I was behind him. I saw it. I got the dash cam. And I witnessed him roll through that stop sign, and I stopped him. Now, you're not a cop. You're just a regular civilian. But you pull Bobby over, and you start harassing him and asking him for his information, and Bobby resists you, and you drag him out of the car, and you tie a rope or put him in zip ties, throw him in the back of your car, and lock him into your basement. What do you think's going to happen? There's going to be a manhunt for you the next day. But somehow it's okay for somebody in a funny costume to do that to you? That's how blatantly evil and ridiculous and unacceptable this whole thing is.
The capital.
And what is it? What is it about being in the cult of personality and drinking the Kool-Aid that makes people think, well, it's okay for them to do it, but I couldn't do that same thing? You know you can't do the same thing as cops. You know you can't do the same thing as politicians. You know you can't do the same thing as senators and congressmen and governors. You know they get away with murder. And you know the reason they get away with murder is because they get a particular position, and there's a perception in the minds of the masses that causes them to let them get away with it. And I'm talking about on a mass. You want to talk about mass psychosis? There you go. People consenting to politics was the clever and deceptive art of using euphemisms, lies, emotionalism, fear, and fear-mongering in order to dupe average people into accepting and even demanding the change of their own enslavement. That is the perfect example of mass psychosis.
fullest ideal is
Okay.
that as free individuals, multiple parties are able to engage in trade because it's of mutual benefit, right?
Uh-huh.
I give you something, you give me something, we both believe that we're better off from it. This is the basic concept of capitalism, of free trade, of application of yourself as a capital resource engaged in the free market. And anytime you introduce coercion into that, you take away from our ideal potential as humanity to engage in commerce.
Of course, I got no argument with that.
So that's what government does. And so if you had
Uh-huh.
if you had the ability now, as we do technologically, obviously, to pool resources to come
But you're
together.
saying, you're calling government, you're defining human nature as government. You're saying anybody with power, you're defining that as government.
No,
And
I'm
just
saying that
saying that
government
would
is-
happen in your private
No.
cop system too.
Right. No.
Probably
Government-
worse.
Right. What I'm saying is that government is the current manifestation of.
There's no way it could happen worse in a private system because you'd be held accountable by market forces. What market forces am I talking about? Supply and demand, the competition of other companies who are going to supply a better service than you. Oh, you thought you could get away Security Force Delta and Security Force Alpha? Well, Security Force Alpha thinks that they can get away with harassing people. Security Force Delta knows that harassing people is not a good business model, so Delta is going to beat out Alpha every single time. But you can't have that under a governmental system because they eliminate competition. They create monopolies.
Human desires to control and dominate others by force, right? This is the premise of.
And that's the only way to govern, is what you're saying.
well,
the only way to
that's
govern
the
is
definition of governing.
and without that, it's impossible to have like a compassionate leadership. It's impossible.
No, with that you have cooperation. You have leadership of people that are doing good work.
So that's a government.
No.
What is the leadership then? If there's not, if there's a leadership, you got a government. If you
Wow.
got someone who's leading,
That is very naive. That is a very first grade thing to say. If you've got leadership, you've got government. No, you can have a leader without a controller, without a ruler. A leader goes, hey, here's my plan. Who's on board with it? I am. And a volunteer, a leader, a good leader takes volunteers to go into do whatever task that leader is leading his people into doing. A ruler goes, you're going. It's a conscription. You don't have a choice. With government, there is no choice. It's the elimination of choice. They'll give you the illusion of choice. Here, I'll tell you what, we'll give you the choice on which ruler you can pick to rule you, but there's going to be a ruler ruling you. A leader doesn't do that. A leader is going to be there and try to convince you with knowledge, with reason, with love, with compassion, with a well laid out plan, an articulated plan. Government doesn't need any of that stuff. They're like, they grab you by the neck and give you a taxpayer funded boots and a taxpayer funded gun and say, here. And I'm just talking about on the scale of war, but anything. That's what government does. You don't have a choice. That's the difference between government and leadership, governance and leadership. One is slavery. One is a voluntary system. One is organized based on market forces, based on supply and demand, based on voluntary cooperation and partnership. And one is just coercion and violence and theft and fraud, on a massive scale. So it's amazing. I don't know if he's playing stupid. I think, and again, this is almost 10 years ago, so maybe Joe Rogan has come a long way, but I have not seen me and Trish have seen a lot of Joe Rogan podcasts. I have not seen a Joe Rogan podcast where he's had another anarchist on other than Stefan Molyneux. He had Stefan Molyneux on, and we all know that Stefan Molyneux went from anarchist, voluntarist to complete Trump-loving, butt-kissing statist. For some reason, I don't know. I don't know what the change was. I don't know why.
you got a government.
Not
So you got another
necessarily.
government. You got a benevolent
You think
government.
Steve Jobs wasn't a leader?
A benevolent government. That's like saying a benevolent slave master. Master, can I leave the plantation? No. And if you try, we're going to bring you back and we're going to tie you to the post. And well, you know what we do after that.
In the
Yes.
technological field?
I think Steve Jobs was a general of Apple.
Absolutely.
That's
So
what I think.
was he government?
Yes.
You think
Absolutely.
Steve Jobs was government?
For sure. If you
Okay,
were,
well, then
you were
you're
involved
defining-
with
then you're
Apple,
defining
if you
government
were involved with
differently.
Apple and you left your phone, the prototype phone in a bar somewhere, even though it's awesome free publicity, you would be arrested, or they would for sure. They check the guy. They fucking stormtroop his house with machine gun.
No. The Apple. See, he's talking about that one incident where the Apple tech left his new iPhone on the bar or whatever, and people looked at it and all that. Apple will not. violate your rights, go against your consent, invade your house, steal your property, tie you up, throw you in the back of an Apple car, and lock you in the Apple basement. Government will do that. All Apple can do is, hey, you violated our terms. I mean, we have an agreement. That's what an employer-employee relationship is. Okay, I agree to work with you and work for you and give you this many hours out of my life and give you this knowledge out of my head, and you agree to pay me a certain sum and, everything else that is involved in that contract. It's contractual. It's a mutually consensual, mutually beneficial, voluntary business relationship and business transaction. That's not what we got with government. He's conflating the two things, and it's amazing to me that he's actually doing that, because I don't think Joe Rogan is dumb.
Looked everywhere for the iPhone.
Yeah, Truth Bias says it's scary that this guy Rogan has so many followers. And again, he could be at a different level now in his journey, because again, this is like 10 years ago. But also, repeating myself, I have not seen a Joe Rogan podcast where he's actually talking about the benefits and the necessity of going to full-on voluntarism / anarchy. I use voluntarism because anarchy, brings up these images of, blood running in the streets, broken windows, burning businesses, flipped cars. It's mayhem. It's chaos. Anarchy is not chaos. Etymologically, if you want to be etymologically honest about it, anarchy comes from two words, anarchon, without rulers. Without rulers. I don't want a ruler. I'm not going to vote for a ruler. I'm not going to install or support a ruler who's going to rule you. I don't want rulers. That's all anarchy is. So there's a conflation here in the minds of Joe Rogan, and he needs to come to terms with that, because if you get a platform as big as he does, you better know what you're talking about on this issue.
Is that not like what the government would do? That's exactly what the government would do. And then they fire the guy. That's exactly what the government would do. Yeah, so I'd say Steve Jobs was the government.
Okay, well then we're still sort of talking about it.
I mean, if that is a corporation, if that is the real free market, the corporation is the village of Apple.
Okay, but you're throwing up these objections that are justifications for government.
Totally not objections. Okay, this is all just devil's advocate.
Okay, devil's advocate. But then it's an important thing to say. But like I said, when you were living under slavery and someone said, hey, we need to end slavery, the devil's advocate was saying, but who's going to pick the cotton? And the answer is, if you understand...
I'm not saying that you should
it's like
be
without
under
government,
the thumb of an oppressive government. I'm saying...
You know what? In his journey, I'll give him this. In Joe Rogan's journey, like the Joe Rogan today interrupts way, way less than the Joe Rogan that you're seeing displayed right here. He's interrupted Adam Kokesh so many times when Kokesh is about to make a salient point.
And can't we have people that we really love and respect, real leaders? Because if you look at a guy like Bill Clinton now that he stopped chasing tail and everything,
what makes you think he stopped?
You think he stopped?
No,
He's got a heart
guys like that don't
problem.
stop.
You don't think so? Imagine those girls and their hard drives, Clinton dick pics. If they wouldn't stop, there'd be Clinton dick pics, man. Don't you think? They'd be worth so much money. How can the girls keep their mouth shut?
Do you know how many people Clinton has killed?
I wonder how many people Clinton has killed. Do you think he's killed a lot of people?
No, but I think after you suck his dick, you get a little briefing.
Do you think that... Did you ever read The Strange Death of Vince Foster? Do you know the story behind that guy? It's one of the guys involved, and somehow or another he had some sort of connection to that giant real estate deal that the Clintons were involved in, where people started fucking disappearing.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. There was a chain email that went around that had this list of there's like 70 people that mysteriously died around the Clinton family.
It might just be how things are done. It might just be how, at a certain point in government, everybody just knows that's how shit's done. And it's always been that.
They get way off in the weeds on this thing, talking about Vince Foster. But Ghost of Tuskegee Experiment says, to be brutally honest, with everything that's going on, who the fork cares about this Shiite? There's no correction of our course at this point. This conversation is pointless. Actually, this conversation is vital. Lack of having this conversation is the reason everything's hitting the fan right now. Lack of having a conversation of, hey, wait a second. No. We can't have evil people in charge of other people. If the problem with the world is evil people, then the last thing you want to do is give some of those evil people, those psychopaths, those megalomaniacs, those power-hungry fools, power and control over the rest of us to where we can't say anything about their power. This is absolutely a conversation that is vital and has to be had. No matter what the time frame is, no matter how late in the day or late in the hour it is. I don't know what you're talking about there, Anarcharica. It's a shame Brian is so lacking info, even though I tried to tell him about this years ago. I don't know what you're talking about. What have I said that's in violation of the principle of non-aggression? Not following you. Let's see. Wrathguard says... What did Wrathguard say? Having a leader without government is basically tribalism. The Native American chiefs were only respected and followed as long as they led their tribe successfully. Yeah, it's all about having a reputation-based society. Yeah, that's missing the point right there. Live what you preach. Go move into the woods. I don't harm. I don't threaten to harm. I don't steal from anybody else. I don't live. See, and I don't mind this pushback. This is fine, but why do you have to go out in the woods? Why do you have to go into the woods? All you have to do is live a life of do to others what you would want done to you. Don't live off Bastiat said the state is that great fiction by which everyone seeks to live at the expense of everyone else. It's not about that. That's why I started this. That's why I started this video off with what I said about. It doesn't matter what you think about the man Joe Rogan or the man Adam Kokesh. We're just dealing with the conversation. We're just dealing about the content, dealing with the content of the conversation. Says Patrick Lewis, Adam is such a fraud, and I am more than willing to admit he duped my ass for a while. This transcends that. This transcends that. I'm trying to get... See, the problem is people are in the cult of personality for Joe Rogan. People are in the cult of personality for Adam Kokesh. People could one day become in the cult of personality for me. That would be horrible. Don't be in the cult of personality for anybody. It's like I tried to tell Brian how bad Hillary Clinton is. So when she stood out on there on the Capitol steps the other day and said the sky is blue and water is wet, I told him not to believe anything she said. It's like I don't have to believe anything she said. All I have to do is separate what she said from who she is, and then I'll just deal with what she said. That's true. The sky is blue. Unless you're living in an area that just got sprayed, and water is wet. So it has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton. And because you're not involved in the cult of personality, because you're not going to let yourself be duped. Now you could let yourself be duped by an ideology that came out of this person's lips, or you could believe somebody was something that they ended up not being. That's one separate issue. Or actually that's two issues. Being deceived into thinking a guy was better than you thought he was is one issue, and then being deceived by an ideology that clearly led you down the wrong path of statism or whatever, that's two different things. So that's why I said it has nothing to do. He could have done the most horrific thing. That's why I started this video. I don't. Anarcharica saying, no, it doesn't, Brian. Pay attention. And I'm telling you, you're not paying attention. He was trying to hire hitmen to kill critics and their children. If that's true, that doesn't have anything to do with this conversation right here. That doesn't have anything to do with what kind of person Adam Kokesh is or what kind of person Joe Rogan is. If you conflate those two, you are drinking the Kool-Aid. Is what's being said here by Adam Kokesh sound? Does it hold non-aggression principle water? Looks like it does to me. I think it's a good conversation. Could Adam Kokesh and Joe Rogan be the devil? Sure, they could be. They could be the most vicious, vile, teeth-sharpened demons with blood dripping from their nails. It doesn't have anything to do about this conversation right here. Nothing to do at all. Yeah, that's true. That's what, isn't that what, isn't there a Hebrew word, NASA or something like that means deception? Of course NASA lies. Of course they're heavily funded. Of course they rely on violence to fund their $60.1 million a day deception and propagation on the American people. Of course they do. We've talked about that a lot in video after video. Exactly. There you go. Tommy gets it. Tommy TR7 gets it. Truth is truth, no matter who says it. Truth is truth, even if nobody believes it. You could be the only one standing for the truth. That does not make it any less truth. And a lie is still a lie, even if you get everybody to buy onto it. It doesn't matter who the people are that aren't buying into it. It's just, is a lie a lie? Yeah. Is truth the truth? Which one you going to accept? You got the choice. Let's see. Dirty Lap Dog says, bottom line, folks, it's survival of the fittest has been and always will be the only true law. In this day and age, it's survival of the smartest, because there's it's survival of the most cunning. I think survival of the fittest, doesn't matter how fit you are, when that drone is about to shoot that RPG or whatever missiles they fire from, a Tomahawk missile is about to come through your window as you're eating dinner in your bunker, in your heavily stashed bunker, heavily fortified bunker. Doesn't matter how fit you were. The guy who had the technology and had the evil cunning and smartness to put that drone in the air and aim it at your house is the guy who's going to win. I understand what you mean by survival of the fittest, but yeah, Camera Chris says survival of the most well-funded. I like talking with you guys. I don't want to make anybody mad. There's going to be disagreements, of course, but can we all agree that it's not right to steal other people's stuff when they don't want it stolen from them? Is it okay to say, hey, it's not right for you to harm somebody who doesn't want to be harmed? Well, then if you agree with that, then it's not right to have government, because that's what the government does. The government is there to steal from you. The government is there to harm you. They're there to coerce you. They're there to rain violence and brutality on you. I think we can all agree with that. So I'm not sure with Anarcharica, I'm not your enemy. It has everything to do with this conversation. The evidence is on Larkin Rose channel and on Distant Thrall's channel. The truth doesn't seem to matter when I say it. No. You're missing the point. What Adam is has nothing to do with what he said in this video right here. Doesn't have anything. I can separate the two. I've seen what people are pointing out as evidence. I've talked with the people. I've looked at the videos. It looks really, really bad. And as a matter of fact, I would talk to Adam Kokesh and I would want to address these points on a live stream and go, here's what this says. Here's what this chat between you and your henchman said. Explain this. What's going on? How is this consistent with the way you say you live? If he promotes the non-aggression principle and lives the exact opposite of the non-aggression principle, that I can reject him as a person, but say that message is sound, which makes it completely irrelevant to the kind of person that he is. It makes Joe Rogan's stand on statism irrelevant to the kind of person he is. Is what he says true or not? Does it hold the water of peace and goodness and kindness and love? Let me ask you this, Anarcharica. Let me ask you this. Do you disagree with anything that Adam Kokesh said? Any of what he said on this live stream right here? Let me ask you that. Because that's what I'm saying. Is I don't see anything that he said runs afoul of the non-aggression principle. They Fear Me says, I know Brian doesn't believe in God, but it's only going to be a community of God-fearing people to enact an anarchical society. Look at the best civilizations ever created, all God-fearing men. The reason I didn't see, there you go. I never said I admired Adam Kokesh. Okay, I admire people who want to hire hitmen all you want. There you go. You just exemplified what I thought you were saying. And it's not true. That's why I started the video. Again, that's why I started the video. Doesn't matter what you believe about who Adam Kokesh is or who you think Joe Rogan is shilling for. Is what Adam Kokesh is saying here, does what he's saying line up with the non-aggression principle? He might not, but his message could be sound. That's all I'm saying. I don't listen to murderers and liars. Well, you're free to not listen to murderers and liars. That's cool. We listen to murderers and liars every single day. If you ever turn on the TV, you're listening to liars. If you ever read anything on the internet, you're listening to people are lying all the time. They're being bad to other people all the time. I love you, sis. But I think we're having a misunderstanding here. Happy to help. Have a great stream. I think we're talking past each other. There's a grave misunderstanding here, in my opinion. Let's see. I want to make sure that I hit all the super chats. Okay, guys, we got 604 likes and 640 viewers in here. Thanks for being in here. Before we leave this, because they get off into the weeds, and there's only like 18 minutes of this left, and I don't think they come back around to the actual subject matter, because they get into the Clintons and Vince Foster and how high is the body count in relation to this former president, and it's kind of weird. And I kind of wish Kokesh didn't come off of this and get into the weeds with Rogan. It's like, hey, let's bring this back around. How do we make this world a better place? That's why I'm even on social media, guys. I want to make this world a better place. I want there to be less violence, less brutality, less taxation, less theft, less government control, less power that the government has. I mean, how come we as American people, that most Americans, well, I don't know how many Americans are against this thing that's going on in Ukraine, or the made for TV thing going on in Ukraine. But people don't want to be stolen from any more than they've already been stolen from. I think we can all agree on that. The reason I've got these channels, High Impact Flicks, Grease Monkey Videos, Here's the Deal. The reason I'm on Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff is I want to do my part to make my tiny little sliver of this world a little bit better place. Why? Because my children are coming up, and I definitely don't want them to inherit what's growing behind the scenes right now with the WEF and the UN creating this global health terrorist network that's going to be completely against us and really put the hammer to us, put the screws to our shackles. Opera Matt says government is an antique. You mean antiquated system? Abolish it. Yeah, it's an evil. Let's just say it like it is. It is an evil system. Government is an evil system. Constitutional author says, solution to the Southwest water crisis, pump seawater into the Death Valley Basin from the highest point at the hottest point of the day. Evaporation would drop water in Colorado. That's an interesting perspective. Somebody said the thing about Brian's not God-fearing or something like that. Eyes to See that says government is centralized and monopolized power and controlled by force. A voluntarist society would starve out a group like modern government for something more beneficial. Yeah, and it really takes, none of us is greater than all of us. We all got to get on the same page. That's why I constantly talk about Samuel Adams. It's not the majority who will prevail. It's the irate and tireless minority who are keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. And let me go back to one thing about Anarcha Rika said. If it's true that Adam is a bad guy, yeah, everybody should know that. Everybody should know that. But another thing is, if everybody realized that Ron Paul, let's say Ron Paul became just this complete corrupt World Economic Forum pawn, or it was revealed that all this time that he was, does that erase all the good things that he said? No, because nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. If the idea is in accordance with truth, in accordance with goodness, in accordance with the idea of love and do to others what you would want done to you and the non-aggression principle, those ideas stand whether Ron Paul falls or not. That's my point. If you disagree with what I just said, let me know in the comments section. So if you disagree with what I just said, just put disagree. Totally disagree. To me, the message is more important than the messenger, because there are far-reaching, long-lasting, profound effects that the truth or the lie can have on masses of people, which transcends the value of one life, because now that ideology could harm or benefit innumerable other lives. If you disagree, you disagree. I want to hear it. If I'm, one man on an island and I'm oblivious to, truths that that I don't have access to, I want to be corrected on that. 0.5, half disagree. Maybe we should have a call in. Bacchus Mill's pushing me for a call in. Okay, so I learned how to do this thing where you can highlight comments. So maybe I can learn how to do the thing where people call in. Hollywood Gamer Guy says, hey, Brian, I appreciate what you do. I really enjoy watching your videos and trying to wake people up against the powers of the evils of this world. There's a battle against good and evil every day. Thanks, Hollywood Gamer Guy. Another thing I wanted to say about somebody saying, I'm not an atheist. Just, that might surprise some. It's just that I see religion as it's a scam. It's a control. It's a psychological operation to control the minds of people for the benefit of the few at the top, or whatever that is. And when you're talking about, I serve God. Well, what God do you serve? Do you serve the pedo-Catholic God? Do you serve the corrupt Baptist God? Do you serve the Krishna God? Do you serve the Muhammad God? What God do you serve? When you say I serve God, like a lot of people have different ideas about who they think God is and what God does and what his characteristics are. The Old Testament God has the Guinness Book of World Records for killing the most amount of people. It wasn't the devil. It was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Is that the God you serve? And that'll turn a lot of people off. But, truth is truth, even if nobody believes it. If you look in the Old Testament, there's 39 books in the Old Testament, 27 in the New. If you look in the Old Testament, the all-time winner for the most amount of the highest body count is definitely God. And he wiped out a lot of people during the flood. That wasn't the devil that did that. He killed everybody. But what was it? 7 people on the ark? Everybody else died. It was apocalyptic. And it wasn't the devil that did that. God did that. And that makes a lot of people, it's like, oh my God, this guy. Oh, who's the author of evil? If I remember right, it's Isaiah 45:7 is God says he authored evil. He created evil. Do you serve the God who created and sustains evil? That's kind of weird. Like, if you created evil, that means you also created the devil. And then if you look at the Greek word proorizo, the word proorizo in Greek means predestined, or to predestinate, or to ordain or plan or create beforehand, before it even happens. It's like Jeremiah said, you created me in the womb. Before I was born, you appointed me as a prophet to the nations. Yeah, you did that before he was born? Let's see, how do you do that? Oh, that's right, because you control all of time. If you are the creator and author of evil, and then somebody comes along and says, I serve the author of evil, wow. I'll even say that backwards. Wow. That's kind of strange. Look up proorizo. I think it only appears 6 or 7 times in the New Testament. Every single time, it literally means to limit in advance. Before the person was born, God made certain people do certain things. And Paul even, I think it's Romans 9 or Romans 11. I can't remember what chapter it is, but Paul even comes up with or whoever wrote Romans, they say it's Paul, the apostle. Paul even comes up with an example of how God made Pharaoh do or not do a certain thing so that he could it'd be pleasing to God. He made Pharaoh do it. It's like there was no free will involved in that. Yeah, the Bible talks about free will, but under proorizo, which is something that God controls, there is no free will. So is there free will or not? I don't know about we're all God. Satan went evil. Yeah, but who controlled that? God says he did. He controls all. See, Brandon Blount, and I'm not against anybody here. We can have this debate. I personally don't care about, I'll have a political discussion with people. I'm not going to get mad. It's like you're going to have your ideas and I'm going to have my ideas. Let's get together at the table and talk about our ideas. Don't get mad if I hold on to my ideas, and I won't get mad if you hold on to yours. I may think they're irrational. I may think they're unbelievable, untenable, or whatever, but that's just my opinion. It doesn't mean we can't have a drink of water together and have a meal and break bread together. Does anybody want to talk about I choose free will, says Billy the Kid. I would choose free will. If anybody wants me to show you that verse, it's 45:7, I think. I wasn't planning on. We're done with the Adam Kokesh thing. If you guys put a 1 in the room, if you want me to keep talking, this usually gets people mad, and I'm not here to get people mad. But let's just talk about the facts, okay? If you say that you're a believer in the Bible, that means you're a believer in all 31,562 words in the Bible, or chapters, or whatever it is. Marlo Jackson says, why is the creator of life and the essence of goodness not justified in taking away life as he chooses? Which creator of life are you talking about? Like, there's a lot of different versions of creators of life. Satan is God's daughter. I didn't know. I thought Satan was like a he. Is he trans? I don't know. Let's see. What is this right here? Gamma Pelwan's 144th birthday. What is that? Let's see. Bible Gateway. A lot of people don't believe it when I say, yeah, did you know who the author of evil is? They're like, Satan. It's like, well, that's not what the Bible says. I mean, it may have been Satan, but that's not what God says in the Bible, or that's not what the person who wrote in the name of God said in the Bible. Let's see. What's the version we should do? New King James Version? No, I think it's King James. Let's see. How do you change versions on this? King James. Let's go to the King James Version. And then there's other people. It's like, oh, you could be in the right church. Like some people go, hey, are you a Christian? Yeah, I'm a Christian. Where do you go to church? Church of Christ. Oh, that's not the real church. You want to go to a Baptist church. You want to go to Methodist, or you want to go to Lutheran. So not only are there divisions in the church, you could have a Baptist talk to you going, hey, you going to church? You saved by the blood of Jesus? It's like, yeah, I go to church. Where do you go? Baptist church. All right, you're my brother. Cool. What it says here in the King James Version, it's like, oh, I don't use the King James Version. I use the NIV or the New King James Version. That's the devil's book. You're not even saved, boy. You're not even reading the real scriptures. Like, man, I can't win for there's some kind of stumbling block everywhere, even within Christianity. There's so much freaking division. Let's see, where's King James here? How do I get King James? HIJK, where is it? King, I just want KJV. Do they not just have regular KJV anymore? Oh, here it is. I think it's Isaiah 45. I think we've gone through this one time in a long time ago. Far, far away. Yeah, look at this. I'll just read it in context. That they may, let's see. I am the Lord and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me. That they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none besides me. I am the Lord. And that right there is, I think it's Elohim, which is plural, which is interesting. It's like, hey, let us make man in our image and in our likeness. It looks like God's got a plurality going on there. And there's none else. I form light and create darkness. I make peace. This is God, and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So you got God right there, if that's who wrote this, saying that, hey, I'm responsible for authoring and obviously sustaining evil because evil is with us today. Less government, Opera Matt says, less government leads to higher average IQ. Higher average IQ leads to less children, but a much higher standard of living and accelerated human progress. So you saying if you have a higher IQ, you won't have children? I would not agree with that right there. Less government leads to higher IQ. I don't know how you prove that. Higher average IQ. I don't know how you can substantiate any of these claims right there, Opera Matt. I don't know if I agree with that. Why? That's another thing too. YWYH, which is, I think that's called the tetragrammaton, where they take the vowels out and just leave the consonants instead of saying Yahweh. There are some people who go, hey, you can't say the name of They don't even say God. They say G-D. It's like people are so superstitious when it comes to religion, man. And if you don't believe exactly like them, then you're a child of the... I'm telling you, Martha, we got another child of the devil here. Child of the devil. Let's see. Brady Boynton. God, this pisses people off so bad. I do not want to offend people because... we need to get together. We need to become united. And I think we can, doesn't matter what you believe about God, doesn't matter who you worship or serve, in my opinion, as long as your ideology or your religious bent or the God that you choose to serve isn't having you steal from other people or harm them or do things against their will. You can do whatever you want to. Brady Boynton says the people who God killed were sacrificing babies. God did his share of killing of people who were just Philistines. And we don't know if they were sacrificing babies. That's just what the writer of that book said. The writer of Deuteronomy, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, all those you don't see. That's the thing is, hey, did God write that book? Yeah, he did. How do you know? Well, I just believe. It's like, yeah, that's the point. You don't know. Knowledge is the enemy of belief, and belief is the enemy of knowing. You don't know. You just believe. It's by grace you've been saved through faith. What's faith? Faith is belief. You don't know. You can't prove it. All you know is that, hey, somebody taught me this book, or I stumbled upon this book and I choose to believe it. You believe every word? Well, then you believe that God created evil. That means you're serving the author and propagator of evil. I'll show you the pro-Rizzo here in a second. It's pretty interesting. I wish I had, what's that called? Strong's Exhaustive Concordance? It's been a while. Chip Fernandez says, evil, just an absence of good. For example, holes are real, but they only exist in something else. Absence of dirt is a hole. Absence of dirt is a hole. Yeah, but you can have a very there's no dirt in my room, but there's no hole. But I understand what you're saying. You're basically saying it's a matter of perspective. Raised by Gypsy says, I only kneel in my garden. Patrick Lewis says, repent to God? No. Right your wrongs. Brian needs to debate Ray Comfort. It's kind of interesting listening to Ray Comfort and some of those people. Eastwood RMC says that. I don't know. Let put a 1 in the room if you want me to keep going. I don't want to belabor this, and I definitely don't want to piss anybody off because I know people are sensitive about this stuff. Thanks for the super chats. Thank you for contributing in the chat room. Anarcha Rika, you're not mad at me, are you? I haven't seen her say anything in a while. Let me know if you're mad. And if you want me to keep going, I will. I'm not, this is all in goodwill. God is like electricity. God is the positive. The devil is the negative. Yeah, but who created the negative? Who created the devil? Who created evil? Who sustains, guys, the devil could be eliminated right now. Evil could be, if God exists the way the Bible says he does, he could eliminate evil right now. He could eliminate the Federal Reserve and the IRS and the IMF and the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations and all the big banksters who are pulling all the strings, who are causing all this stuff. He could eliminate abortions right now, but he doesn't do it. He chooses not to do it. He chooses not to save millions of people right now. Why is that? Good night, Brian. Thanks for giving a big middle finger to NASA, says Ryan Roberts. Good night, man. Thanks for showing up. Just Tired says, I will debate Brian. Well, wouldn't be much of a debate because I so often agree with him. The Bible is changing. Forgiveness is good. I didn't see many ones in the room, so there's probably not a lot of interest in just going over this stuff. Predestination is a word that exists in the Bible, and believe it or not, words have meaning. And a lot of people don't want to see the fact that God is in control of everything, including your decisions. You can call it free will, but if there's somebody that's higher than you, that's more powerful than you, that controls the past, present, and the future, and everything that is, and everything that was, and everything that shall be, how can you say there's free will in that? Either he controls everything or he doesn't. But at the same time, I'm not atheist. I don't believe that time times chance times nothing equals everything that we see. All matter was created because two things collided and created this chemical soup mixture, and then we slithered out like tadpoles and then became primates. I don't believe that all that's religion too. All that Darwinism stuff, to me, that's religion. That's so laughable. It's like you have no proof for that. 4.5 billion years ago, we slithered out of our primordial soup mixture to become the intricate, intelligent beings that we are today. I just don't buy that, man. That's religion. Joy to Trujillo. Is that how you say your name, Joy? Who you follow? You mean like? I don't understand. I guess you have to clarify that. Brian knows the true shape of the earth and he's awesome. I don't. I really don't know the true shape of the earth. I don't know what the shape of the earth is. I don't. I'm really, I listened to David from Down Inside the Rabbit Hole. DITRH, I think. I love David. And I don't even disagree with what a lot of things that he says makes absolute sense. And when I see somebody take that Canon ES 9000 or whatever, and then zoom in, you're looking at the ocean and it doesn't look like anything's there. And then they pull this massive ship back into view. And it's like, what? Wait a second. If you take the Earth calculations of the 8-inch per mile square thing, that you shouldn't be able to see that ship. As a matter of fact, that ship should be like 2 miles below the horizon line if it's out X amount of miles. Like, that doesn't make sense to me, So when Flat Earth presents that kind of stuff, I'm like, yeah, you're right. At a 6-foot height, looking out over the horizon, you shouldn't be able to see that island if it's 250 miles away. How is that explained? Yeah, that's that kind of stuff. I haven't landed on what the shape of the earth is, guys. That's why you don't hear me talk about flat earth, globe earth. And guys, another thing too is I don't NASA lies. That's another thing. You can look at NASA using the CGI and the cables, and they make all these mistakes, and listen to what Buzz Aldrin said, and they're acting all weird. And how the heck did you make it past the Van Allen radiation belts, guys? In that tin foiled can of what the hell is that? And how did I saw oh man, I wish I put this on my Twitter page. Somebody showed the capsule taken off in the 1960s, and oh man, what's wrong with this thing? My boom is, it's falling on me. What in the world? Never does that. What's up with that? Come on, man, stay up. Somebody showed the land. Okay. So the space capsule, I wish I could show you the picture, because the picture is definitely worth 1,000 words, and I'm not going to do this justice. But you got the satellite, the Saturn V, taken off into space, into the wild blue yonder, and it's got the capsule that eventually splashes down. But in between that, you have this. Here, I'll just show you the lunar lander. What a joke! This thing right here. Guys, if you don't look at this and go, what the flip? If you can look at this and go, oh, absolutely believable that they made it 238,000 miles from the Earth to the moon through the Van Allen radiation belts. And that thing, it's like, what a bunch of fifth graders in a science class got together with poster board duct tape and their mom's aluminum foil Reynolds wrap and put this thing together, man. I wish I need to, let's see. And then the blast off where you got the camera panning up where they blast off from the moon. It's just hilarious. It's the kind of stuff like that is hilarious, man. Now I was done. They didn't get me off track. I was done talking about what we were talking about. Anarchy is either right or it's wrong. And I would like to have that conversation. People are like, why don't you debate this person, debate that person? I'd rather sit down and just have a conversation. It's like, what if I'm wrong? I don't want to debate. I'm going to leave myself open to, hey, I could be completely wrong about this thing. But you don't want to be so open-minded that your brains fall out either. But this, the fact, oh yeah. Let's see. Comparison, I think it's with the lunar and the rover. Where's the rover? Right next to the lander. Oh yeah. That rover right there. Oh wait, where's it at? You mean to tell me that this, what did they say this? I can't remember how much they said the rover cost, but it was a ridiculous amount of money. It's like It's like a stripped down model of a Jeep. It's got a Jeep drivetrain, and it's like, okay, how did they operate that on the moon? That's hilarious. But this right here somehow fit into. Oh, can you see that? Yeah, this right here somehow they want us to believe that this fit into that, and that turned into. Let's go to splashdown. Oh wait. Let's do takeoff first. Saturn V liftoff. Okay, here's the Saturn V liftoff. And there's the capsule that made the splashdown. And let's go to splashdown. Splashdown for the moon landing. Okay, so here's the part of that capsule. So here's what happened. Here's what they're saying that happened. All right, the Saturn V took off, okay, and here's that little capsule part that miraculously appeared at splashdown. But so here's the liftoff, and then it shed its cowling or something, and somehow it turned into this so that they could safely land on the moon with that thing right there in it, plus 3 other guys, Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and who's the other guy? Who's the third guy? I can't remember. And then it turned back from this to that. What the flip? I mean, is that a psychological operation? I don't know. Kari Audio Man says this is a long stream. Yeah, what are we on? What's the... Oh, hour and 55 minutes. Holy cats. Okay, so it went from that, turned into that, and went back into that. So they could enter the atmosphere and do splashdown. I don't know. I find that just kind of ludicrous. Then you got the Van Allen radiation belts, and then you have Neil. Is his name Neil Pettit? He's a NASA engineer who said, "Oh, we lost all that technology, and we can't redo it." This is 2022. They did this back in the 1960s. You lost all the telemetry and everything to the point where we can't make a trip back there. I'm not saying if we did or we didn't. My feeling is that we didn't. That I don't see how it was possible with 1960s technology. I just don't see it. All right, let's go back to, let's see. I don't want to leave anybody out here. What did I just do? Let's see. We already did that right there. Oh, wait. Romans 13, 6-7 says opera Matt, government propaganda right there. Yeah, that's another good. Yeah, you tell me if you're a Christian, do you believe Romans 13? Seriously? Talks with Ryan says getting into that tube with all them demons. Haha. Oh, that's Kenneth Copeland, right? Kenneth Copeland goes, I don't want to get into that. I got to have this G6, this multi-million-dollar aircraft in my personal stash because I don't want to get on a commercial airliner and get in a tube with all them demons. Says Kenneth Copeland, who literally looks like he's turning into, like, facial features, everything that we understand that a demon looks like, just from drawings and stuff. Who knows if demons actually exist? I doubt we know what they look like. Because, if you take the Bible for what it says, demons don't appear like that. They appear as angels of light. That's how demons appear, according to Paul, if you can believe him. But yeah, that's a good point. Hey, Media Bear's here. Media Bear. If you have not subscribed to Media Bear, this guy is killing it, man. This guy should literally have millions upon millions of subscribers, but he's been so suppressed and so shadow banned. He's got all this music out there with these lyrics that just completely expose the left versus right paradigm and everything else, man. Take a look at Media Bear. If you haven't, anybody know who Media Bear is? They have purple hair and only talk about their sexuality, says Medium Bear. Derp. Snake oil salesman like Big Pharma. Tommy says, I didn't realize I turned into that and then turned back and then turned into that again. It's crazy. And then you got Nixon talking on the phone with Neil Armstrong. Well, this is one of the most historic telephone calls in the history of the United States of America. No static, unbroken, and we can't even get cell signals in 2022 in certain places in the country. But we got a direct line 238,000 miles away Which brings us to the what was that movie called? The Shining, Stanley Kubrick. What was the number on the door? As the little kid with the Saturn V launcher, when he's standing up as though that's liftoff, and he looks at the door, and the door is 237 or 238, which is 237 or 238,000 miles to the moon. Thanks, Stanley. Oh, not Stanley Kubrick. Who was it? Was it Stanley Kubrick? I don't remember who did The Shining. I think it was him. Let me know if it was Stanley Kubrick. I hate getting the wrong name. Media Bear says y'all are awesome. Was it Stanley Kubrick that did The Shining? Oh, was it 237? Room 237? It says Raised by Gypsies. Eric Farmer says, did Media Bear do a video about anal swabs? Media Bear says, yeah, it was Kubrick. Oh, anyway, somebody said go to Romans 13. Dang it, man. Do you guys, how many people are in here? I don't even know. 574, 714 likes. Thanks, guys. Man, I was going to do a live stream on Here's the Deal, and I really wanted to get this video out. Tell you what, why don't we do a live stream? Not tonight. It won't be tonight. But can you guys do a live stream tomorrow on my Here's the Deal channel? A lot of you probably don't even know that I have a Here's the Deal channel. Let's do, let's see. Let's go back to this. And then I'm used to the New King James Version, so we'll go all Satanism on us and do the satanic Bible verses. Just kidding. That's what some people who are strictly King James, it's like, if you use anything but King James Version, you're of the devil. Romans 13. Yeah, check this out. Does anybody really believe this? Do you really believe Romans 13? Do you really believe Romans 13, 1 through 7? Brian, I love you, brother. You're a good man. I wish I could have a beer with you. Thank you that fear me. They fear me. It'd be cool to do like a meet and greet. It'd be fun. It'd be fun to hang out. If you want me to do a live stream tomorrow night on my Here's the Deal channel and you're interested in going, participating in it, put a 1 in the room. Just say 1 live stream or something like that, so I know. See what the demand is. Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities. I don't think so. For there's no authority except from God. And the authorities that exist are appointed by God. So they exist and are appointed by God. Does that mean Himmler? Goering? The guy with the funny mustache? Stalin? Mao Zedong? Pol Pot? Every authority that exists is appointed by God. Huh. That's a little suspect. Therefore, all right, thanks for the 1s, guys. And let me just show you where I'm going to have the live stream is right here on my Here's the Deal channel. This is my channel that's dedicated completely to, I can't even talk, police accountability. Here's the link right here. There's the link. It's called Here's the Deal. And I call it Here's the Deal because that's what tyrants say before they're about to take away your rights. So let's go back to this. Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities. People are saying, you don't understand what that's saying. That's God is not saying that you need to obey the governing authorities. That's exactly what he says. Let every soul. Do you have a soul? I don't know. Maybe we don't have souls. Let every soul, let every person be subject to the governing authorities. For there's no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God? What if the authority says to do something evil? And those who resist will bring, if I resist Nazi Pelosi, I'll bring judgment, the judgment of God on me? Are you kidding me? If I resist Sleepy Uncle Joe, I will bring judgment on myself? If I resist a power-tripping authoritarian cop who's trying to harm somebody, I'm going to bring judgment on myself? For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Really? In what dimension are we talking about? Because I live here right on this ball called, or flat place, or ball, whatever the shape is, called Earth. See, that $15,000 indoctrination program was coming out of you there, Brian. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. That's not true. Do you want to be unafraid of authority? Yeah, I just don't want them to exist. Do what is good. Like, don't steal, don't kill, don't lie. The very things that the authorities do. And you will have praise from the same. I don't want praise. I don't want the authorities to praise me. I don't want them to say, see, Brian's a good boy. Look at him. Good boy for doing good. I just don't want him to exist. I want him to leave me alone. For he is God's minister to you for good. But if you do evil, be afraid. He, that's the authority, the ruler, does not bear the sword in vain. For he is God's minister. Wait a second. Himmler, Goering, Pol Pot, Stalin, Biden, Obama, Trump were God's ministers, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil? Then why did they do so many bad things to so many good people? Therefore, you must be subject. Oh, so the Bible's teaching us that there's a class. There are rulers and there are the subjects, and the subjects must be subjected to the rulers. You better do what they say, because if you don't, they're going to bring judgment on you. An avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. Then, therefore, you must be subject not only because of wrath, but also for conscience sake. For because of this, you also pay taxes. That's a lie. That right there, 4 words. You also pay taxes. That completely shows you that this part of the New Testament is a lie. Nobody pays taxes. You would not voluntarily pay tax. Taxes aren't something you pay anyway. Taxes are taxes because there's government force. There's a government gun pointing in your face going, we're taking it from you. It doesn't matter what you say. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter how much you beg or plead. We're taking it from you. If you don't let us, well, we'll probably end your life. For they are God's ministers, attending continually this very thing. And then it says, render therefore to all their due. Taxes to whom taxes are due, customs to whom customs, fear to whom fear, and honor to whom honor. Guys, I'm just going to take this at face value. I don't buy any of that. Anybody here buy that? He's a servant of Satan. He's going against Paul. Guys, I just don't buy this, because you can use your brain. The Fallen says, how about that? Cash me outside, Paul. How about that? I got to be. I'm on YouTube, back Shamil. I can't play. I can't do that. It'll probably fly on D Live, but I don't know what the video is. You got to be super careful when you're doing a live stream on FluTube. The Bible says the earth is 6,000 years old, but Göbekli Tepe is 11,000 years old. I don't know. It seems like. I mean, you got to take it on faith from the Bible that it's 6,000 years old. And it seems to me that you have to kind of take it on faith about carbon dating if that's how you get your information. I don't know. I don't have enough knowledge about it. I don't have enough knowledge. I might do it later, back Shamil. What about the 10 tenets of Satanism? Yeah, didn't we go over that? Talks with Ryan? Didn't we go over the 10 tenets of Satanism? And there was... I don't think there was a disagreement on anything in the 10 tenets of Satanism. Yeah, Roof Warrior Jacobs. I get stalked by that guy all the time. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. I've done that before, Cal Holy. If you're on a live stream and you actually show that you're carrying or transporting in some way a firearm, the algorithms are so attuned to what's going on, they shut my live stream down. What happened here? Yeah, they shut my live stream down, and I'm talking about less than a second or two. It wasn't even up for very long, and they shut my live stream down. All right, guys, I'm going to end this. I appreciate you being here. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please hit it. It does help me with the algorithms. And if you like this content, share it with everybody you know. There's a share button under the video. If you want to support the channel, all the support links are in the comment section or the description below. I really appreciate you guys being here. And we will have this live stream tomorrow. You will want to take a look at this. This is going to be an interesting video that we're going to go over on the Here's the Deal channel. If you need that link, I'll drop that link before we go off air. And there it is right there. Appreciate you guys hanging out. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, share it, give it a like, and I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban live stream. Take care.